Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. I'm so excited to introduce my next guest on the Into the LightWeb podcast, the $1 Million Lab series. This beautiful woman is a highly trained, intuitive, and compassionate coach that channels positive energy and lightening a path for inner power. And her name is Lynne Taggart. So me and Lynn had an amazing conversation. I know you're going to love it. We shared so many synchronicities. It was really, really spooky. I am so excited to introduce to you Lynne Taggart. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here for another episode of Into the LightWeb podcast, and we're in the $1 Million Lab series. And today I have got the gorgeous Lynne Taggart, and I'm so excited to have her on the podcast because we have loads in common, we've just discovered. So I can't wait to get into this. Hi, Lynne, and welcome. Come and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Joanna. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. I can't wait to see where this conversation goes. So I'm Lynne Taggart. I live just across the Irish Sea from you in Northern Ireland in a little country town. I live on a farm. I'm a mum. I have two gorgeous kids. And I have been on such a journey. I can't wait to see what we talk about because I know there's lots of little milestones that you and I share along the way. At the minute, I am working with incredible female leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and really gorgeous women who really just desire a very powerful inner connection, whether it's spiritual, whether it's energetic, if they want to be healed. I kind of do all the things. And really it's a space for them to come in to go into a bigger level of money, a greater level of freedom and joy, to shift their energy, to become a vibrational match for all of the things that they want, but to do it in a way that it doesn't suck the life out of them, that they get to have the ultimate pleasure, the love, the freedom, all the things along the way.
Oh, I love that. Well, that is definitely what we're all about in the $1 Million Lab. We're all about that intuition, that mindset, and getting to have it all without having to kill yourself doing it. One of the sayings that we have from the $1 Million book is that hustle is for people who don't know how to flow. So I love
that. I love it.
So tell us, because we just discovered that both of us at the age of 23 opened our own fashion stores. So we both have this background in retail and fashion. And obviously I have my way that I ended up where I am here. I'm absolutely fascinated to hear how you went from the fashion world into the coaching world. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
So the same as yourself, it was just this huge passion. I had amazing managerial roles, really well-paid jobs, and I had itchy feet the whole time. And by the age of 22, I knew I had just been promoted into a project management role, and I was overseeing a lot of people at a very young age in the health trust. And I just knew I was not supposed to do that job. I used the money, the income, and the time, because I had no work at all, to create a business plan. Because back then you had to give a business plan to the bank and they wanted to know all the details. And I did all the traditional things that, you know, we're told to do to get up and running in business. And I thought I was going to open a menswear shop. And my mom was already in fashion retail. She did older women's wear. I was going to open up in the same town, and it's a small country town. And at the very last minute, I was buying a menswear brand and I decided to bring in women's wear. And it was one of the best things I ever did, because it brought my passion to life, my love for clothes and all of that. And I had a lot of contacts. I had a big network. I had been a part-time buyer which then became a full-time position for 2 years with an independent. And they took me to London and Germany and all these really cool places, to all the big fashion houses. And my eyes were opened at a very young age to what was possible. So I was able to apply all of that, bring it into the business. I then wasn't just happy with the shop, but I went online and created a web store, and it became global. And as much as I loved it, there were a couple of really big things that happened in the middle of those 8 years. So I got married. I had 2 kids. I had Oliver first, and then Harlow, who's a girl. And I ended up going back into the shop when they were really young, like 2, 3, 4 weeks old. And my level of contentment and passion and happiness was really diminishing, to the point where it was impacting my health. I didn't love being a mom. I hated coming home and having to do all the things. And I was in a bad place emotionally. I had anxiety. I didn't want to admit it. That was the last thing I was going to do. So
I love you said you didn't want to admit it, because like I felt myself in a very similar place. And what I found in the sort of similar place that I was in, I was just really in this place of, realizing that my life wasn't really working, but on paper, I should have had it made. And it sounds like you were exactly the same place. Like on paper, you had the kids, you had the partner, the business, all the things, and it looked like you had it really, really made. And then obviously you're miserable, so you don't want to admit that to anyone, because you should, quote unquote, be happy, right? Because you had it made. And that's how I felt. And I felt such shame at the fact that I wasn't happy in the situation. I like you, was just at that point where I was overworked, the passion had gone, it was just started to feel like a chore.
yeah, it was definitely hyperactivity, the badge of honor. Let's not sit down at night. Let's do all the things. Let's be everything to everybody else. And like you, I always say to my clients, like, I had the car, I had the gorgeous home, the diamonds, all the material things. I should have been up there. I should have been high vibe. I should have been really grateful, in appreciation. And there was a lot of underlying shame, guilt. Like, guilt was massive. Like, why am I not a better parent? Why can I not love my kids more? Why did I not notice? There was a lot of me was so busy that I couldn't then notice the basic things. But one of the really big things that in hindsight transpired, and also kind of when I was in the shop working with people would come in to me, and it was as if they were dumping their problems on me, right? You're the person that they come to. They want to feel better. They want the outfit. They're going out. They want to look good on the outside. But to me, that was the band-aid for the stuff that was going on inside. And I recognized this pattern over and over again. And I also saw it massively in myself, where I had the wardrobe that was full of all the beautiful clothes. I had everything. And I was like, this in here is not how I want to feel. And as soon as I recognized that for myself, something in me shifted. I was no longer a vibrational match to be in the shop. That's exactly how it felt.
I am freaking out right now, because I went through exactly the same thing. I can tell you the exact moment I went through that shift. I was standing in my shop. I used to have this beautiful Italian brand called Killa, and it was like owned by Miss 60, and they had the jeans were something else. They fitted like a glove. This woman was in a size 27, because they did in between sizes. So she is literally a size 9, a UK size 9. So she's in a mini size. She comes out of the fitting room. She pinches 2 bits of skin together. There's nothing there. Her stomach is washboard. And she says, Joanna, do you think I look really fat in these? And I remember my heart sinking into my boots and having this distinct feeling I did not want to sell this woman these jeans. What I really wanted to do was sit down, make her a cup of tea, and talk about what was really going on. Because how could a woman who had a stomach that was like a washboard coming out look like a freaking supermodel, and and obviously see such a distortion in the mirror of what was actually true and real, there I knew that there was something deep psychological going on with that person, and a deep sadness, and that jeans, just like you said, was like the band-aid for everything going on. And that was the moment I realized I'd outgrown the fashion industry.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And but even when I think back, like just making the decision to no longer be somewhere that you had so many commitments and you had all these contracts and forward orders and forward payments, like it was a really big deal to walk away from that.
Huge.
And it's only now, at that time, I felt like a massive failure. So I had a lot of that to like overcome. And also, you know, just really diving in and dissecting all of that and going like, you're actually stepping up here. Because I didn't know I was going to go into the world of coaching. I didn't even know that coaching was a thing. And I just remember going through all of that. Like there was that feeling of I've gave up on these people, not just me, but I've gave up on these people who came to me to feel better. And it's only now as we talk about this that that's coming through, that there was this element of responsibility because we provided not just the clothing, but the space.
There's the listening ear sometimes of just listening to someone.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I totally resonate with that feeling of feeling like a failure, because when I came out of my businesses, so I had a slightly more dramatic escape from my businesses, which was it resulted in multiple organ failure, stress induced multiple organ failure. And I literally just could not work in the way that I had worked before. And you know, that was 13 years ago, and I was told I wasn't going to survive that, but I was determined that I was, and here I am, spoiler, I make it. And so I just was faced with this thing. But I went through everything that you described there, of like feeling like a failure, feeling like I'd let a lot of people down. I was lucky in the fact that I successfully sold my business. So somebody actually, it was sold and took over, and it kept running and things. And obviously, like, my staff didn't lose their jobs and things like that. But it was still a very, like, I just remember feeling like the puppy with its little tail between its legs, and just really feeling like, wow, never mind that I'd actually managed to kind of sell the business, never mind all the things. And even when I moved online and moved into coaching, and obviously there was a little space in between that, but then I moved into coaching, there was still, I remember in my first year of coaching in 2015, online coaching, that I was like, oh, well, I hope they never really find out what, like, now I share the story happily, but I was like, I hope they don't really, find out that I burnt out, or I hope they don't realize that, I kind of walked away from that business and things. I still had remnants of that shame, but as I began to own more of my story, I realized how powerful the story was. And it was such a powerful story of transformation. And it sounds to me like you managed to embrace your story as well, and realize it was a powerful story of transformation. So how do we make that cross into coaching? Because you're where you left us was at that place of, you're feeling down, you're feeling like you've let people down, you've let customers down, people that were relying on you, and that again is classic sign of how much pressure you'd put on your shoulders.
Yeah, I know
So
that. So just like what you said, the body, I feel like this vessel is our indicator of where we need support in that moment.
oh, I love that.
And I had a massive ball of anxiety in my stomach, and it burnt me. And I was like, I've got to listen to this. And I Googled how to meditate. I don't know why. Nobody over here, there was no meditation classes. I didn't go to yoga. I didn't do any of that. That wasn't my story. But I Googled how to meditate, and I taught myself how to sit on the living room floor twice a day, every single day, until something shifted in me. And I don't remember how, well, actually, I do remember how my sister phoned me and said to me, have you read The Secret? this is such a
Oh my God, that's exactly.
typical journey. And I went, no, what are you talking about? Tell me more. And she told me enough that I downloaded it. And that whole weekend, I think I listened to it. I listened to it on Audible. And I dived into the world of self-development massively. It was book after book after book. I became a seeker.
Obsessed after that book. Obsessed.
It definitely is like a remembering of something. Now I couldn't even read it because I know more now. But back then I was very naive. I was very clouded. I had, a religious upbringing. There was a lot going on that I had to work through to get to where I am now. And I know we're going to dive into that. But very long story short, I was self-taught. I was a seeker. I was curious. There was a level of innate knowing that there was more within me, and if I could tap into that, where would that lead to? And it literally was paying attention, following, and there have been things that I have done that I'm like, I can't believe I almost did that. So I nearly went into personal training because I was obsessed with the body and food and how I felt within.
Okay.
I then had just purchased an online nutrition course, and I thought, I really want to learn this because I love food, I love nutrition, I love filling myself with things that make me feel better. And that again was still some of that inner peace. And as soon as I got myself structured and set up to do the nutrition course, up came a Facebook ad, and it was talking about coaching. And honestly, it was very shiny. It was very attractive. It was pretty. It was a space that I could see myself in. And I thought I could work this from home. The kids were young. I could see myself doing it. I had no idea what it was. I didn't know I was going to have to be myself and share my story. I wasn't ready for any of that. So on my part, there was a lot of healing that had to be done to be okay with who I am. There was a lot of just really deep inner work that I decided to be available to do. I didn't want to bypass anything. I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to really do it right.
I got to go all in.
That's just who I am as a person. And so it really was just following the footsteps of other people to begin with. But then there was definitely a turning point where I traced backwards and I was like, do I really want to do this? Is this me? Is this all of me? And it became a very spiritual, healing, inward journey, and still is, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
Oh, amazing. I was the same. It was The Secret, and after that, I became absolutely obsessed with personal development. I would literally be in any law of attraction class of any teacher that would have me. I was literally like front of class, taking a bazillion notes. I was just learning everything. Very quickly, I started studying things like quantum physics. I'd always had my spiritual gifts switched on. So at the same time, I always had this really big spiritual side. I've been sat in circles since I was 23, 24. I started sitting in circle and developing and spiritual development and things like that. So the spiritual side was very much there for me, but it literally became, and it was like you, it was like when I finally got the information, it was like, I know this already. It was just like, it was something inside me was awakening. Yeah. And a real deep memory of, yeah, of course it's like this. Like, duh, I kind of knew it in the back of my head the whole time. And so I did offline coaching first, and like you, when I saw that, I remember watching something. I think it was Jack Canfield had said, set a goal so big, so large that you would know that, like without a shadow of a doubt, that this law of attraction thing is working, right? Like if you said it, it's like there's no possible logical way that could happen unless your mind was controlling the reality that you're in. And so I then had this idea that we my goal for many, many years had been to make 7 figures. And so I had this idea that what would actually a 7 figure lifestyle look for me, because I wondered, does it really require 7 figures? Or, like, I'm not a person that, like, for me, cars are not like a super duper thing, but I love to travel. And I'd done the fashion thing. So to be quite honest, like I was kind of a little bit over the labels too. So that wasn't my jam either. So I sat down and I created what I call my big vision. I created this huge big vision. And then I thought, right, okay, let's anchor it into the physical world. And I priced the vision, and I came up with that I would need, because we live in rural Scotland, so it wasn't exactly like super expensive place to live. It wasn't like living in London. So I reckon I could have a bit of a million, like my version of millionaire lifestyle, at £21,000 a month. At the time I thought, wow. And that at the time for me, after coming out of the shops and everything like that, that felt like loads of money. And I thought, right, okay. And then I went a few weeks and I was doing readings for people, and I had my spiritual events company. It was the only company I kept after my burnout. And I remember one day thinking, oh, I wonder like how many one-to-one sessions I would need to do in order to get, reach my goal. And I keyed into the calculator and it came up with 700 hours in a month. Now a month only has 740. And that was the moment I realized I needed a new business model. And so I was kind of like, had my eye on a business model. And like you, I remember showing up for this webinar and they talked about online courses, and it was like, make a course once and then sell it multiple times, leveraging your time, and that was the buzzword, the leveraging your time thing. And I remember seeing it and being like, just mesmerized. I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I was so excited. And I'm so excited that I could pour the information, like I had so much information I wanted to share with people that I could pour it into a course, and like I could reach so many, like this idea that it could reach like way more than I could see one-to-one, and it could reach this bigger audience. So from that point onwards, it was just my obsession from law of attraction switched into an obsession of online business, and really like, let's learn all the things online and stuff. So it sounds like we've had like such a parallel path. I mean, this is literally freaking me out. It's so parallel. And I, like you, love to work in the realms of what other people might even call magic. I love to work with people's, with really alignment and lining them into this thing. And for me, it is about complete wealth. It is the wealth in the physical world, which is awesome because that gives you freedom and choice within your physical reality. But it's also a deep spiritual wealth that gives you the deep spiritual fulfillment in life, which was so lacking when I had my shops, and by the signs of it, was lacking when you had your shops. So tell us a little bit about your work just now. Obviously, mindset, intuition, all the things feature massively. How important would you say mindset and intuition is to happiness and fulfillment?
So, my journey, I just want to touch on this because my journey started with money mindset. The course that I went into was a coaching course, which I didn't really hear. I just heard money mindset and I was like, oh, what is this? I want a slice of this cake. Tell me more. So I really dived into money mindset work and mindset work, which was really powerful in the beginning. But I personally had to take it to a deeper level because there was already something within me that resonated on a deeper level. So it was kind of like I started up here and then went more into the heart and then went more into the body, which then became the energy field, the emotional field, the spiritual realm. It all just kind of clicked into place for me because I didn't have what you had in my 20s at all. I literally was in my 30s by the time I was doing any of this work, but at the same time it felt like it'd been there from a very, very young age, from the age of 3, when I kind of reflect back on some of the happenings and things. And I truthfully encourage women to, yeah, the mindset work is great, but what if we go deeper? So yeah, you have your intuition, and that is really powerful. But a lot of people are so busy, especially in the business world, where they're doing the business things online, they're trying to make it work, they're checking all the boxes, but they're not able to access their intuition because of that busyness.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I get people at the point where they're ready for another level, but they also recognize that they can't physically take any more on, and something has to shift. And it's not a matter of doing something else or having another strategy or something outside of themselves. It's something within them that needs to be clicked into place. It's that deeper inner well of source
Mm.
energy that they are actually craving. Because what I find is they hit the big goal, they have the big money months, they do it again, and still there is an underlying something, an underlying vibration or an emotion that's telling them, hey, come over here and take a look at this, because you're still not happy having achieved this huge goal. So
Mm.
something's off. What could be off? And that's where they come to me, and I don't tell them what is off. I guide them into their own knowing and their own source energy, that they can receive it for themselves.
Yes.
Even if I already know, because it's up to me. I really feel like I have stepped into this earthly role to assist women to see through the eyes of source energy their own wholeness and their own truth, from a place deep within, not from you're missing something or you'd be better doing this or this might work because it worked for me, but really letting them see. And it's what you talked about earlier, where you tapped into your expanded version as the wealthy woman and all the things that were already there created for you, and bringing that into the material world. Women are very good at that. They're very good at their desires, and they're very good at calling in the material things. But when the material things don't fill the emotion that still hasn't been addressed, it's like, right, we've got to plug that. We've got to really help you to connect with your integrity or your truth or your worthiness or
I love
whatever it is, so that you can receive it in a high vibration, and not then be fire hosing the situation after. And then there's the other type of woman who has all the wealth and she has all the money in the world, and money is not the issue and material things are not the issue, but what she's missing is her own inner connection.
Mm.
And it's because she hasn't been exposed to the online world or the self-development world, and she wants to fast track. She doesn't want to do the path that I've done, because that would take her, a few years or a few hot minutes, but she wants to come in and get what she needs to connect back into who she is, because her identity on some level is broken, or it's just not whole, and she can't connect with that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So yeah, we work very similar by the signs of things. I work on the source connection, and that you don't really need fixing, you really need, more than anything, reconnecting. And once we reconnect to that piece of us that remembers its source, we start to channel that energy through us, and life just gets freaking awesome.
I
On
love
all
that.
levels. Like, it starts working in all levels. It is the culture that we were told, that we probably, both of us, grew up in. You can have it all, and yet we thought it was a material thing, but it's actually, it is a deeply spiritual process.
Mm.
I love that you do this for people, because I think, it's when we're working with source, I always love to think about working with source as one message, many voices. And
Mhm.
it is a message that needs to be delivered in many voices, because not everybody likes everybody on this planet. That's just the straight up truth, right? And so we need lots of people to deliver it in different voices and things. So as you moved your business and you start this business online, what year is this when we're starting this business online? How is that?
That was 2014, so it feels
Right.
like, gosh, a lifetime ago now, but
Yeah, you've probably grown so much. I know I've grown in the last 6 years more. Like, even though I've had so many other businesses before and stuff, I've grown in the last 6 years way more than I've grown in any other time in my life. Like, so exponential growth. So
It's crazy, and we've just got so much at our fingertips that we can access. But again, I like you, I'm all about let's help other people to do it faster. They maybe don't need all of those things. Like, let's just give them what they absolutely, that we know they need now based on where we are, rather than based where we were in 2014 or 2000.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love this reconnection with the self as well. My first book was called Get Selfish, The Way Is Through. And it's really like getting through yourself and literally getting yourself, like really understanding who you are, what you're about, what brings you joy, what doesn't bring you joy, really realigning, reconnecting with all of the things that make you you. And that was my healing journey from multiple organ failure. That's what literally healed my body, and also as well healed the aftermath, which was chronic fatigue, chronic illness, and autoimmune stuff. And all of it healed just through listening to my own self and reconnecting with source, because source is literally the ultimate healer. And so I love this journey that you've been on. So tell us a little bit about, as you're been building your business, because obviously here in the into the LightWeb podcast, in the $1 Million Lab series, we have got this really juicy metaphysical question that we've asked inside the $1 Million Experiment, which is, can mindset and intuition along with $1 Million plan make you a millionaire in just 1 year? And so it's such a, like, for me it's so much fun, because the community that we have, it's all about playful curiosity, instead of, because we make things so serious, right? And that playful curiosity. So tell us a little bit about your own journey to building your own wealth while maintaining deep spiritual fulfillment at the same time as well. How's that looked in the terms of your business building and expanding exponentially?
It's definitely been a learning curve, because I feel like I fell into where most people at some point, will recognize. I got to 6 figures, and then I went, oh, is this it? Like, what am I missing? Like, why am I not, again?
Where's the marching band?
I'm like, that's not enough. Like, so there were multiple areas where I stopped and I was like, okay, let's kind of turn our face towards the sun a little bit more, because it's not quite warm enough over here. And I've continued to evolve. And I think that one of the things I've really helped women do is give them permission to evolve, because when you get to the milestone, whether it's 6 figures, 7 figures, or 8 figures, you're not the same person as you were at each of those destinations, because you've already expanded into who you become. So, your millionaires have already expanded into billionaires, but them tapping into that energy is like, can you even imagine what that would do to them? And whenever I started to do that, I was like, oh my gosh, energetically, I've already expanded into that version. She's a billionaire. Like, why would I settle over here? That became a massive piece for me, where suddenly I was receiving the energy from over there, and not based on the past, not based on where we are. I know there is power in this moment right now. I recognize that. But what if you were to tap into that energy that is your truth? And that was a game changer for me, because there was a big part of me made myself wrong for having such big desires. Why could I not settle for the same thing as somebody else? Or why could I not settle for an economy seat on a plane ride? Why did it have to be business class? I made myself wrong for the things that I actually really wanted so many times. And that was a huge block. And as the business evolved, I had to really step up, not from a place of I should do it because other people have done it, not from a place of if I bump into somebody and they see me here, like, does this look right? It was nothing about that. It was like, what is it I believe that I truly desire that is the truth of me? And then not denying that, because if I deny it, it brings the negative emotion. If I deny it, it brings the slowness. if I deny it, it brings me the wrong clients who don't want to pay the prices. Like there's so much that gets
There's
thrown
so
into the
much,
pot.
yeah. And I think so many people, this is such an I love this nugget in this podcast, because this, I mean, I was like you, and especially even in my early days building my fashion business and everything, like there was this thing constantly in the back of my head, like, why can't I be happy just being married and having two kids? And like, why do I need this career? Why do I need, and I always had this massive drive for bigger, better, and bolder. And it wasn't actually till 2006 where I began studying Kabbalah. And my Kabbalah teacher said this, like, it was just a mindgasm moment for me, where my Kabbalah teacher said, you know, humans are creatures of desire. It is the soul's purpose to keep desiring, because it propels the soul evolution forward. And I'm like, man, I desire everything. And I must be desiring a massive soul evolution. And that was the moment it clicked for me. And that was the moment, it was like that moment, it gave me permission to not be ashamed of what I desired in life, that it was okay for me to desire. And it was okay for me to desire beyond the picket fence and the
Mhm.
2.5 children and the dog and the husband. Like, I could desire a massive business empire. I could desire impacting millions of people. I could desire beyond these smaller confines. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because if that's your desire, that's what your soul wants. But I knew in that moment that my desires hadn't actually come from my human, it had come from the larger part of me, the soul, and it was part of the purpose of my life and living. And
Mhm.
then I was no longer shamed, because I had felt so policed. And people around me were like, Joanna, why can't you just be, you know, like, you've got lovely husbands and kids, like, why can't, and yes, it did make me happy, but there was always that little piece that I was like, yeah, but I want to see the world, and I want to change the world, and I have these ideas and these ideas, you know. And I love that you've touched on this, because how many people have been policed into smaller desires because they're ashamed of having bigger ones.
Yeah. The number one reason why women don't get their desires is because of judgment, self-judgment, or judgment from others. And
Yeah,
it's time to change it. Like we say, you know, I'm not judging myself, but the truth is we are, and it makes us sick. And, you know, it brings us all sorts of hassle that we don't need. But
absolutely.
yeah. And I think you're like me, you know, you're from Scotland, I'm from Northern Ireland. This isn't the done thing. We're doing things that other people wouldn't think of.
It's so not the done thing.
So I'm like, where are we going next plane?
I love it. And you like me, you have to take a plane sometimes, you know,
Yeah,
to get places.
yeah. Mhm.
And oh, I love Northern Ireland, because my best friend's actually from Northern Ireland. So I do go over, like, I haven't been over since COVID, but we do go over quite often to visit and things, and I love it. But it, you know, usually for me, where I live in the north of Scotland, it's like we have to take a plane to take a plane, you know. And but I love the fact that I've been able to see so much of this world, and see, you know, see what I've been able to see and stuff, and the freedom that my business has afforded me, but also as well the lives that I have touched and impacted. Tell us a little bit about the impact that you feel that your sacred, soul aligned work has made in the world.
You know, it's bigger than what I know. One of my things is like really owning. That was like the biggest thing for me to overcome, is really owning the depth of how you've changed someone's life.
Mm,
And I still get, you know, emotional just thinking about it. But yeah, I knew that the depth at which I change people's lives is going to be really deep for years to come, not just in the six
yeah,
months, the 9 months that we work together or whatever it is. And so I decided a long time ago I wasn't going to do anything surface level. I decided that it really was going to be deep work. Like there were things that we were going to change forever for these people, for these women.
I love it.
And now for me, where it's at is depth. So I don't have a lot of clients. I don't have a lot of programs. I'm like, give me a handful of private clients. My prices are high. We go really deep. And for me, that is the impact at the minute. It's expanding. We're going through a massive rebrand. It won't be, nothing will be out for at least 6 months. There's a lot happening behind the scenes. And this feels like, I keep saying, it's like the grown up version. Like I've been, I've been adulting for whatever 20 something years, but now this is like, right, this is the grown up version. I accept that this is the project that Spur are bringing to me. They brought me the people, they brought me the team, they brought me the ideas. I have asked for guidance after guidance, and it's all just coming in, and I'm like, okay, I've got to run with this, because if I don't run with it, I'm not fulfilling the impact that I'm here to create. And it's scary. I'm like, seriously, like, why did you pick me to do this? There's a lot of that coming up in me, but I also know it's because I'm in that energy. Like, I've already expanded into that energy. So I've got to become aligned with that to feel really amazing. So if I deviate from that, it's the separation that's causing the kind of,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
so it's like I've had to lean back to receive that. And I think that, there's a lot of let's run really fast and let's hit the big goal in the industry that we're in.
Oh, yeah.
But what if we're slowing down to catch up with everything that's already created? And that's the space that I've been in for a couple of months, is that catching up, so that I could receive that. And if I hadn't have done that, I probably would still be launching all the things.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. And that is definitely, and I feel like we move through that in different levels. Sometimes we have to slow down to allow the reality to catch up to where we are already coded for in the energy. And other times we have to do the things, to plant the seeds in the energy,
Yeah.
to get the channels for it to receive the next thing. I love it. I love it. I cannot wait to see this rebrand. I will be keeping my peepers open for it. I cannot wait to see this next level. The butterflies it's given me is like sick. I'm like, oh my God, I know it's going to be huge for you. It's going to be massive. I can actually feel the heart pulse. So I know that it's going to be really, really huge. So tell us a little bit, Lynn, just as we're wrapping up here, tell us, how can people find you on the internet? How can they reach out and find you, and where they can, hook up and connect with you?
Yeah, so my website is lynntaggart.com. I mean, that's just all the things are there. I love Instagram. So I'm on Instagram as Lynn_Taggart, Lynn with an E. I'm on Facebook as well. Send me a message if you have questions, if there's anything at all. I'm an open book. And that is it. Very easy.
Oh, well, thank you so, so, so much, Lynn, for coming to join us here on the Into the LightWeb podcast on the $1 Million Lab series. Cannot wait to see the rest of your story unfold, and hopefully you might come and join us again in the future.
Joanna, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.